The lights were blinding. Lydia Monroe sat frozen in the guest chair, her hands trembling as they rested on her swollen belly. 8 months pregnant. The studio audience's murmur had turned into a deafening roar, but she couldn't hear any of it clearly. Just white noise. Just her heartbeat hammering against her ribs like it wanted to escape her chest. Aaron stood at center stage, microphone in hand, his perfect television smile gleaming under the cameras. Her husband, the man who'd kissed her goodbye that morning and told her this appearance would be good for them. "America," he said, his voice smooth as silk, "I've brought you here today because I believe in transparency. I believe in truth." He turned to face her, and something cold flickered behind his eyes. "And the truth is, the woman sitting beside me, my wife, has betrayed everything we built together." The air left Lydia's lungs. "Aaron, what are you?" "I'm done." He cut her off, his voice rising just enough to sound wounded. Heroic even. "I'm done pretending. Done covering for her lies. Done being the fool while she—" He paused for effect, letting the silence stretch. The cameras zoomed in on Lydia's face, catching every micro-expression of shock. "I want a divorce." The audience gasped. Someone screamed. Social media would be exploding by now. She could feel it, even without looking at her phone. "Hi, viewers. Kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story." Lydia tried to stand, but her legs wouldn't cooperate. Her vision blurred. This wasn't real. This couldn't be happening. Not here. Not on live television in front of millions. "You're lying," she whispered, but the microphone didn't catch it. No one heard her. Aaron was already walking off stage, waving to the cheering crowd like he'd just won an award. The host rushed to Lydia's side, fake concern plastered across her face, but Lydia could see it in her eyes. This was gold. This was ratings. She stumbled to her feet and ran. Backstage was chaos. Producers shouting. Cameras following. Her publicist grabbed her arm, already on damage control, but Lydia yanked free and kept moving. Out the back exit, into the alley where the morning sun felt like an interrogation lamp. Her phone buzzed. Once. Twice. 100 times. She didn't look. Across the city, 37 floors above Manhattan, a man stood at a floor-to-ceiling window, watching the same broadcast on a muted screen. Elias Voss didn't move. Didn't blink. His jaw tightened as he watched Lydia Monroe crumble under the studio lights, her hand instinctively protecting the child she carried. He knew that face. Not from television. From years ago. A hospital waiting room. A woman who'd talked his baby sister off a ledge when no one else could. A stranger who'd saved a life and disappeared before he could thank her. And now this. Elias reached for his phone, his voice calm, but edged with something dark. "Find her. Now." The line clicked. Aaron's smug face filled the screen behind him, frozen mid-smile. Elias turned the television off. What would you do if your whole life shattered on live TV? Would you fight back or disappear? Drop your thoughts below. The paparazzi were waiting at her apartment. Lydia barely made it through the lobby before the flashes started. Questions fired like bullets. Did you cheat? Is the baby even his? How does it feel to be America's most hated wife? She covered her face and pushed through, her security guard forming a human shield until they reached the elevator. The doors closed on a wall of camera lenses and screaming voices. Inside her apartment, silence felt like drowning. Her phone hadn't stopped. 15 missed calls from her agent. Former agent, probably. 23 texts from brands pulling sponsorships. Her Instagram was a war zone. Death threats mixed with laughing emojis. Memes of her face, frozen in shock, already viral. She turned the phone off and sat in the dark. 3 days later, the contraction started. Too early. 5 weeks too early. Pain that folded her in half on the bathroom floor, gasping for air that wouldn't come. She reached for her phone with shaking hands and dialed 911. No one else to call. Her mother had died 2 years ago. Aaron had made sure their friends chose sides, and none of them chose hers. She was alone. The ambulance came. The hospital lights were too bright again, everything spinning, nurses asking questions she couldn't focus on. Then pushing, screaming, a sound she didn't know she could make. And then crying. small and fierce and alive. "It's a girl," someone said. Lydia held her daughter against her chest and wept. Not from joy, not entirely. From the weight of knowing she had to protect this tiny person in a world that had just tried to destroy them both. "Noelle," she whispered. "Your name is Noelle." The nurse smiled, but it was the pitying kind. When Lydia woke hours later, groggy from exhaustion, there was an envelope on the side table. Hospital letterhead. She opened it expecting a bill she couldn't pay. Instead, a single sentence. "Your account has been settled in full." No name. No explanation. She asked the nurses. No one knew anything. A payment had come through overnight, anonymous, enough to cover everything: delivery, recovery, the private room she hadn't requested but somehow received. Outside her window, a black car idled in the hospital parking lot. Tinted windows. Engine running. It stayed there for hours, and when she was finally discharged the next morning, it was gone. Lydia carried Noelle to the taxi stand, her body aching, her mind spinning. Someone had helped her. Someone was watching. She didn't know if that should terrify her or give her hope. In his office, Elias Voss closed the file on his desk. Hospital records. Discharge papers. A photograph of Lydia holding her daughter, taken by a security camera, grainy but clear enough. He leaned back in his chair and exhaled. "She's safe," he murmured to no one. But safe wasn't enough. He picked up his phone again. "Prepare the Vermont estate. I want it ready in 2 weeks." Have you ever felt completely alone when you needed help the most? What would you do if a stranger saved you without asking for anything in return? Let us know below. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. Lydia almost threw it away. It looked expensive, cream-colored paper, no return address. Her name written in elegant script. She'd learned to distrust anything that looked too good in the past 2 weeks. But Noelle was crying, the formula was running low, and the eviction notice on her counter said she had 30 days. So she opened it. "Ms. Monroe, you are invited to a private writing residency in Vermont. 6 months, fully accommodated. No obligations. A space for healing and creativity. If interested, a car will arrive Friday at noon. No signature. No contact number. Just an address in the mountains." Lydia read it 3 times, looking for the catch. There was always a catch. But what did she have to lose? Her career was dead. Her bank account was bleeding. The tabloids camped outside her building weren't leaving anytime soon. She packed everything that mattered into 2 suitcases. Friday came. At exactly noon, a black car pulled up, the same one from the hospital, she was almost certain. The driver was polite, professional, said nothing except "Welcome, Ms. Monroe," and took her bags. The drive lasted 4 hours. City to highway to winding mountain roads lined with trees that looked like they were on fire with autumn color. Noelle slept the whole way in her car's seat, peaceful for the first time in days. When they finally stopped, Lydia's breath caught. The estate was massive. Not mansion massive, but sprawling, made of stone and wood that blended into the forest around it. Smoke curled from a chimney. Warm light glowed in the windows. It looked like a postcard, like a dream. "This can't be real," she whispered. The driver smiled, small, knowing, and opened her door. Inside was even better. Hardwood floors, a fireplace already crackling, bookshelves that stretched to the ceiling, and in the kitchen, fresh flowers in a vase. Her favorite kind, peonies. A chill ran down her spine. How do they know? She walked through the rooms slowly, Noelle bundled against her chest. Everything was perfect, too perfect. A nursery already set up with a crib and changing table. Her favorite tea in the cupboard, the one she hadn't been able to find since her mother died. Someone had been paying attention. That night, Lydia sat by the fire with a notebook in her lap, and Noelle asleep in a bassinet beside her. She tried to write, but the words wouldn't come. Just questions. Who sent her here? Why? What do they want? She looked out the window at the dark forest beyond, and for just a second, she thought she saw a figure standing at the edge of the trees, watching. When she blinked, it was gone. Somewhere in the house, a security monitor flickered. Elias Voss watched the live feed from his apartment in the city, his tie loosened, a glass of whiskey untouched on the desk. She looked tired, but safe. He told himself that was enough. It wasn't. Would you accept help from a stranger if you didn't know their motives? What would make you trust them? Or run? Drop your answer below. The snowstorm came without warning. One moment Lydia was driving into town for supplies, Noel strapped safely in the back, and the next the world turned white. She couldn't see 5 feet ahead. The road vanished under a blanket of ice. Her tires spun. The car slid sideways. She gripped the wheel, heart slamming against her ribs, trying to remember what her father taught her about black ice. Steer into the skid. Don't brake hard. But the car didn't care what she remembered. It slid off the road and into a ditch with a crunch that rattled her teeth. Noelle started screaming. "It's okay, baby, it's okay." Lydia gasped, twisting to check her. She was fine. Startled, not hurt. But the car wasn't moving. The engine sputtered and died. Lydia pulled out her phone. No signal. Of course. She bundled Noelle tighter and tried the door. It opened halfway before hitting snow. She squeezed through, wind cutting through her coat like knives, and started walking. There had to be a house nearby. Someone. Anyone. The cold bit through her boots. Noelle's cries turned to whimpers. Lydia's hands went numb. Then headlights. A truck appeared through the snow, slowing as it approached. The driver's door opened and a man stepped out, tall and broad-shouldered, moving toward her with quick, purposeful strides. "Are you hurt?" His voice was deep, steady, the kind that made you believe things might actually be okay. "No, just stuck. My baby. Get in the truck. Now." She didn't argue. He drove them back to the estate in silence, the heat blasting, his jaw tight. Lydia stole glances at him. Dark hair dusted with snow, sharp features softened by concern. He looked like he belonged in these mountains. Rugged, real, nothing like the polished fakeness of Aaron's world. "Thank you," she said quietly. I don't know what I would have done. You would have figured it out." He glanced at her, something unreadable in his eyes. "You're stronger than you think." The words hit harder than they should have. At the estate, he carried Noelle inside, while Lydia fumbled with numb fingers. He built up the fire, made tea without asking, and only then introduced himself. "Eli," he said, extending a hand. "I managed the property." His hand was warm, calloused. She held it a second longer than necessary. "Lydia." I know, the way he said it. Not like a fan, not like someone who'd seen the headlines. Like he actually knew her. They sat by the fire, steam rising from their mugs, Noelle asleep between them. The storm howled outside, but inside it was warm. Safe. For the first time in weeks, Lydia felt like she could breathe. "Why are you really here?" she asked. Eli looked at her over the rim of his cup, and something flickered across his face. Hesitation, maybe, or regret. "Someone wanted you to have a place to heal." "Who?" He set down his mug. Stood. "Get some rest, Lydia. You're safe here. I promise." He left before she could press further. Later, alone in the dark, her phone buzzed. Signal finally returned. One notification. A news alert. Aaron Monroe's new show breaks records. America's favorite host rises from betrayal. She turned the phone face down and closed her eyes. Outside, Eli stood in the snow, phone pressed to his ear. "She almost died today," he said, voice low and furious. "I'm not doing this from a distance anymore." Have you ever met someone who made you feel safe instantly? What's the biggest risk you'd take for a second chance at peace? Tell us in the comments. Lydia started writing again. Not the memoir everyone expected. Not an expose or a tell-all about Aaron's cruelty. Just her story, raw and honest and hers. Eli came by most mornings, always with an excuse. Firewood to deliver. Pipes to check. Once he brought fresh bread from town, still warm, and she'd caught him watching her tear into it like he'd accomplished something important. "You didn't have to," she'd said, mouth full. "I know," but he kept coming back. They fell into a rhythm. He'd read her pages while she fed Noelle. He never lied. Told her when something felt forced, when her anger bled through too sharp. But mostly, he'd nod and say, "This is good. Keep going." His belief in her felt like oxygen. One night, after Noelle finally went down, they sat by the fire with wine. Real conversation, not small talk. "Why'd you stay?" Eli asked. After everything, why not just disappear? Lydia stared into her glass. Because disappearing means he won. Means I'm ashamed. She looked up. I'm not ashamed. I didn't do anything wrong. Something in his expression shifted. Softened. No, you didn't. The space between them felt electric. What about you? She asked. Why do you hide up here? His jaw tightened. I'm not hiding. Feels like hiding. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, I lost someone. Someone I should have protected. And I didn't. His voice cracked barely. So now I make sure the people I care about are safe. Lydia's chest ached. She reached across the space between them and took his hand. You can't save everyone, Eli. I can try. Their fingers intertwined. His thumb brushed across her knuckles, and the touch sent heat up her arm. She looked up and found him staring at her. Not her face, at her eyes, like he was searching for something. Lydia, his phone rang. The moment shattered. He pulled back, checked the screen, and his whole body went rigid. I have to take this. He stepped outside. Lydia watched through the window as he paced, one hand in his hair, his voice sharp even though she couldn't hear the words. When he came back in, his face was a mask. There's something you should know, he started. But before he could finish, her phone lit up on the table. A text from an unknown number. Aaron wants to make peace. Exclusive interview. Prime time. Your chance to clear your name. She stared at it, her stomach twisting. Eli read it over her shoulder. Don't. What if I need to? What if I need to face him? You don't owe him anything. I owe myself closure. His eyes flashed, anger, fear, something deeper. Lydia, he'll destroy you again. That's what he does. Then let him try. The silence between them was unbearable. Finally, Eli stepped back. If you go, I'm coming with you. Would you confront the person who ruined your life, or let karma handle it? What's worth more, closure or peace? Let us know what you'd choose. The contract arrived by courier the next morning. Lydia sat at the kitchen table, Noelle cooing in her bouncer, and read through the terms. Primetime slot. Exclusive rights. A chance to tell her side of the story, with Aaron sitting across from her, cameras rolling, America watching. It was a trap dressed up as an opportunity. She knew that. But part of her, the part that still woke up at 3 in the morning replaying that moment on stage, needed to look him in the eye one more time. Needed to prove she wasn't broken. Eli leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. You're really doing this? I have to. No, he said quietly. You don't. She looked up. You don't understand what it's like. Everyone thinks I'm the villain, that I deserved it. If I don't face him, that narrative stays forever. And if you do face him, you're giving him exactly what he wants. More attention, more drama, more control over your life. His voice was tight. You've already won, Lydia. You walked away. You're healing. Don't let him drag you back into the fire. Maybe I need to walk through the fire to know I can survive it. Ilias Yov clincheth. He looked like he wanted to argue, but instead he grabbed his coat. Where are you going? To make sure you don't go alone. He left before she could respond. That night, she couldn't sleep. She paced the house, Noelle finally down after hours of fussing, and found herself at Eli's cabin at the edge of the property. Light glowed in the windows. She knocked. He opened the door shirtless, hair damp like he'd just showered, and something in her stomach flipped. Can't sleep either? He asked. Tell me I'm not being stupid. He stepped aside to let her in. His place was smaller, simpler, just a bed, a desk covered in papers, and a wall of monitors she didn't understand. You're not stupid, he said. You're brave. But bravery doesn't mean you have to fight every battle. Then what does it mean? He moved closer, close enough that she could smell cedar and soap. It means knowing when to walk away, when to choose peace over proving a point. Her breath caught. Is that what you did? Walk away. His eyes darkened. No, I fought. And I lost the person I loved because I was too stubborn to see that some fights aren't worth winning. The pain in his voice was raw, real. Lydia reached up and touched his face. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just, he covered her hand with his. Just be careful. Please. They stood there, heartbeats apart, the world shrinking to just the two of them. His thumb traced her wrist. Her pulse jumped. Illy. His phone buzzed. Loud. Insistent. He pulled back, cursing under his breath, and checked it. His expression went cold. What is it? Aaron just announced the interview on social media. Called it the reckoning. He's already spinning it like you're crawling back to him. Lydia's stomach turned. She grabbed the phone. There was Aaron, perfect and smug, telling his millions of followers that his estranged wife had finally agreed to face the truth. The comments were brutal. Predictable. She's desperate. He's too good for her. Can't wait to watch her fall apart again. Rage burned through her chest. I'm going, she said, and I'm going to destroy him. Eli's eyes met hers, and for the first time, he smiled. Sharp and dangerous. Then let's make sure you do it right. Would you walk back into the fire to prove you survived it? Or stay in the peace you built? What's your breaking point? Let us know below. The studio felt smaller this time. Lydia walked onto the set, heels clicking against the polished floor, and the memories crashed over her. Lights, cameras, Aaron's smirk. But this time, she wasn't shaking. She'd spent 2 days preparing with Eli, rehearsing every possible attack, every twist Aaron might throw at her. Remember, Eli had told her the night before, his hands on her shoulders, steady and grounding. He wins if you lose control. Stay calm. Stay honest. Let him be the villain. Now, sitting across from Aaron under those same blinding lights, she felt the audience's eyes like needles. But she didn't flinch. Aaron looked good. Of course he did. Tailored suit, perfect hair, that smile that had once made her feel safe. Now it just looked plastic. Lydia, he said, voice dripping with false warmth. Thank you for being here. Let's not pretend this is a friendly reunion, Aaron. The audience murmured. The host, a different one this time, younger, hungrier, jumped in. Lydia, you've been silent since the divorce announcement. Why speak now? Because silence was mistaken for guilt. She looked directly at Aaron. And I have nothing to be guilty for. Aaron's smile tightened. That's interesting, considering. Considering what? That you humiliated me on live television while I was 8 months pregnant with your child? Her voice was calm, surgical. That you accused me of betrayal without a shred of evidence? Or that you built your career comeback on my destruction? The audience went silent. Aaron leaned back, trying to look relaxed, but she saw the flicker of panic. You're twisting things. I was hurt. I reacted emotionally. You planned it. Lydia pulled a folded paper from her jacket. This is an email from your producer, sent 3 weeks before that show. Subject line, divorce reveal strategy. You orchestrated my humiliation for ratings. She handed it to the host. Cameras zoomed in. Aaron's face went white. Where did you get that? Does it matter? It's real. Your signature's on the approval. In the control room, Eli watched the monitors, a slight smile on his face. He'd been the one to dig up that email. One phone call to the right person, one carefully placed bribe. Worth every penny. Aaron recovered quickly, like the performer he was. You're trying to paint me as the bad guy, but you left out the part where you... I did. Ow! You turned to look at me. How did you do any of this? You had nothing. I made sure you had nothing. You made sure I looked like I had nothing, I said. There's a difference. You taught me that. How to hide assets. How to move money. How to make people see what you want them to see. I was a very good student. He walked to the window, stood where I'd stood that morning. I've been thinking about you, he said quietly. More than I should. More than Victoria would like. Don't, I said. Don't do this. Do what? Pretend you care. Pretend you remember what we were. You erased me. From your life. From your story. From your memory. You don't get to remember me now that it's convenient. He turned around. His eyes were wet. I'd seen Adrian cry exactly once before. The day his father died. He'd learned early that emotion was weakness. That weakness was unacceptable. I was wrong, he said. About everything. About you. About what mattered. I got caught up in the success. In proving I could do it. In being someone people respected and feared. You were always someone people respected, I said. When you were mine, before you forgot that. Before you decided credit mattered more than truth. I know. Do you? Because you took my work and called it yours. You took my strategies and built an empire and never once said my name. You made me invisible. Then you were surprised when I disappeared. I am sorry. His voice cracked. Serena, I'm so sorry. For all of it. For the divorce. For the gala. For the things I said. For the way I hurt you. If you've ever had someone apologize after it was too late, after the damage was done, after you'd already rebuilt yourself without them, comment, I rose without you right now. Because apologies don't erase pain. They just acknowledge it. And sometimes acknowledgement isn't enough. I walked closer to him, close enough to see the lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 3 years ago. The gray in his hair he was trying to hide. The weight of his empire wearing him down. You slapped me, I said quietly, in front of everyone. Do you remember that? Every day. I remember it every day. Why did you do it? He was quiet for a long time. Then, because you were there. Because you'd stayed away for 3 years, and then suddenly you were at my event in my space, reminding everyone that you existed. That I'd been married. That my story had a chapter one wanted to forget. And now I realized that chapter was the best part, he said. That everything after was just me running from what I destroyed. Building higher to forget how low I'd gone. I reached out, took his hand, felt his fingers wrap around mine. The same hands that had built presentations I'd written. Signed contracts I negotiated. Slapped me in front of 1,000 people. You can't have me back, I said. That woman is gone. The one who loved you. The one who would have forgiven anything. She died the day you locked her out. What you're looking at now is what grew in her place. I know, he whispered. But can I hold her hand? Just for a moment? Can I remember what it felt like when we were good? I should have said no. Should have made him leave. Should have used this moment to twist the knife deeper. That's what the revenge fantasy called for. That's what the broken woman from 3 years ago would have wanted. But I wasn't broken anymore. And revenge, I'd learned, isn't about making them hurt. It's about being so whole that their hurt can't touch you. So I let him hold my hand. Let him remember. Let him feel what he'd lost not through my cruelty, but through my absence of need. I didn't need his touch. I didn't need his apology. I didn't need anything from him at all. And that, I think, hurt him more than any words I could have said. We stood there as the sun set over the city. Two people who used to be everything to each other, now standing on opposite sides of a war that was already over. Tomorrow, I said finally, we work together. You report to me. You follow my direction. You rebuild this company the right way. Can you do that? He nodded. Yes. Then go home, Adrian. Go home to Victoria or whoever else you found to fill the space. But know this. Every time you walk into that building, every time you sit in that office, every time you make a decision, you'll be building my legacy now. Not yours. Mean it. I pulled my hand away, walked to the elevator, pressed the button to send him back down. He stepped inside, turned to face me as the doors started closing. For what it's worth, he said, I always knew you were brilliant. I was just too afraid to admit you were better. The doors closed. He disappeared. And for the first time, he saw the woman he'd broken standing whole. 3 months later, things had changed in ways I never expected. The Vale Group was thriving under new management. My management. We'd restructured, eliminated redundancies, promoted people based on talent instead of politics. The stock price had jumped 18%. Business magazines were calling it a remarkable turnaround. Adrian was still CEO, still ran day-to-day operations. But he ran them my way now, with transparency, with credit given where credit was due, with acknowledgement that success is a team effort, not a solo performance. We'd settled into a strange rhythm, professional, respectful, almost friendly. He'd listen to my strategies, implement them faithfully, thank me in meetings in front of everyone. It wasn't redemption, but it was change. Victoria had left him 2 weeks after the board meeting. She'd seen the writing on the wall, saw that Adrian's power had been cut in half, and half power wasn't worth her time. She'd moved on to a tech CEO in San Francisco. I heard she was already engaged. Good for her, I'd said when Adrian told me. She always knew what she wanted. Daniel had become a regular presence in my life. Dinner twice a week. Coffee on Sunday mornings. He knew my story now. All of it. The betrayal. The rebuilding. The calculated takedown. He'd listened without judgment and said simply, you did what you had to do. That takes strength. We'd slept together once. A quiet night after a particularly good day. It wasn't explosive or passionate or desperate. It was gentle, careful, Two people who'd both been hurt learning to trust touch again. Afterward, lying in the darkness of the penthouse, he'd said, "I'm not trying to replace anyone. I just want to be here. If you'll let me, I'll let you." I'd said, and meant it. The gala invitation arrived in April. The same gala where Adrian had slapped me. Annual event. Same venue. Same charity. Same people. This time, my invitation came on heavy cardstock. Gold embossing. The Veil Foundation requests the honor of your presence. Below my name, a title, Distinguished Contributor and Board Member. I held the invitation in my hand. Thought about the woman who'd walked into that ballroom a year ago. Alone. Scared. Smiling through humiliation. She becomes someone else. Someone who didn't need to smile through pain because she didn't feel pain anymore. Just power. Just peace. Just the quiet satisfaction of knowing that dignity is the loudest revenge. I called Daniel. There's an event next month. Black tie. Probably boring. Want to be my date? Is this the gala? He asked. The one where everything happened? Yes. Then absolutely. I want to watch you walk into that room owning everything. If you've ever found peace after pain, if you've ever rebuilt yourself into something stronger than what broke you, hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications because stories like this need to be shared. Comment, "I rise in silence," if you understand that the best revenge isn't making them hurt. It's becoming so powerful that their hurt can't reach you anymore. The night of the gala, I dressed in white. Not navy like last year. Not black like armor. Why like peace? Like clarity. Like someone who had nothing left to prove. Daniel met me in the lobby. He looked good in a tuxedo, comfortable in his skin in a way Adrian never had been. Adrian had always worn success like a costume. Daniel wore it like a second skin. "You look stunning," he said. "I look like myself," I said. Finally, we walked into the ballroom together. The same chandeliers, the same whispers. But this time, the whispers were different. Respectful, curious. People want to know my story, how I'd done it, how I'd come back from nothing to become someone they needed to know. Adrian was there with no date. He stood alone near the bar, nursing a drink, looking like a man who'd learned that winning isn't everything if you lose yourself in the process. Our eyes met across the room. He raised his glass slightly. Not a toast, just acknowledgement. I nodded back. Not forgiveness, just recognition that we'd both survived the war we'd fought. "Should I be worried?" Daniel whispered. "No," I said. "He's not who I'm here for." "Who are you here for?" I looked around the room, at all the people who'd watched me be humiliated, who'd whispered about my failure, who'd counted me out and forgotten my name. "Myself," I said. "I'm here for myself." The evening passed in a blur of conversations and connections. People wanted to invest with Meridian Holdings. People wanted meetings. People wanted to know my secrets. I gave them the same answer every time. Work without credit. Build without ego. Rise without permission. As the night ended, Adrian approached. Daniel tensed beside me, but I touched his arm gently. "It's okay. Serena," Adrian said. "Can I say something?" "You can. You are always better than me. At strategy. At vision. At understanding what really matters. I spent years trying to prove I didn't need you. All I proved was that I didn't deserve you. It wasn't an apology. It was better. It was acceptance. Truth. The kind of honesty that only comes after everything else is stripped away. "Thank you," I said, "for teaching me to be strong enough to leave." He smiled. "Saad. Real. Love doesn't die, does it? It just learns where it's safe to live." I took Daniel's hand. Looked at Adrian one last time. "No," I said. "It doesn't die. It just becomes wiser." We left him there. Walked out into the night air. Tomorrow, the world would see who truly owned the empire. But tonight, I just want to be a woman who'd survived. Who'd risen. Who'd learned that the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about building something so beautiful that they finally understand what they lost. 1 year later, I stood in that same ballroom for the last time. The gala had become my event now. The Veil Foundation had been restructured under my direction. We funded women entrepreneurs, small businesses, people who'd been counted out by the world that only valued loud success. The whispers weren't whispers anymore. They were conversations. Introductions. Partnerships. The same people who'd watched me be slapped 2 years ago now wanted my attention. My time. My approval. I learned something important in those 2 years. Revenge isn't about making them suffer. It's about becoming so successful that their opinion stops mattering. It's about rising so high that you can look back and feel nothing but gratitude that they pushed you to become who you were always meant to be. Adrian had stepped down as CEO 6 months earlier. Mutual decision. He wanted to focus on smaller projects. Teaching, mentoring young entrepreneurs, using his experience to help others avoid his mistakes. We had coffee sometimes, once a month. Professional, friendly. Two people who'd shared a history but were no longer bound by it. He'd tell me about his students. I'd tell him about Meridian's expansion. We'd laugh about things that used to seem important. "Do you hate me?" he'd asked once. "No," I'd said honestly. "I don't hate you. I don't think about you enough to hate you." That answer seemed to hurt and heal him at the same time. Victoria had sent me a message on LinkedIn. "Professional. Brief. Underestimated you. That was my mistake. Congratulations on everything you've built." I'd replied, "Thank you. Good luck in San Francisco." No animosity. No bitterness. Just two women who'd both learned that attaching yourself to someone else's power is always temporary. Building your own is forever. Daniel and I had moved in together. Not to the penthouse. That space was mine alone. But to a house in the suburbs with a garden and room for the life we were building. He proposed 3 months ago. Simple ring. Simple question. "Will you share your future with me?" I'd said yes. Not because I needed him, but because I wanted him. There's a difference. Need makes you weak. Want makes you whole. Margaret ran the East Coast division of Meridian now. 6-figure salary. Company car. Respect she'd earned through decades of quiet competence finally acknowledged. "You changed my life," she told me once. "You gave me a chance when nobody else would." I'd said. I just returned the favor. Tonight's gala was my goodbye. I was stepping back from the Vail Group, selling my majority shares to a collective of women investors who understood what I'd built and why. Taking Meridian private, focusing on the work that mattered to me. I stood at the front of the ballroom. Same spot where Adrian had humiliated me 2 years ago. The room fell silent. Hundreds of faces turned toward me, waiting, listening. 2 years ago, I stood in this room and learned an important lesson. That humiliation is temporary. That dignity is permanent. That the people who count you out are usually the ones who never understood what you were counting. Quiet laughter, knowing nods. I'm not here for revenge anymore. I'm not here to prove anything to anyone. I'm here because this foundation now funds women who've been told they're not enough, who've been pushed aside, who've been told their ideas don't matter. I paused, looked around the room, found Adrian standing near the back. He was smiling, proud maybe, or relieved that my story had led somewhere other than his destruction. "They thought I was broken," I said. "But breaking is just the beginning. What you become after is what matters." I was broken. Then I was becoming. Now I'm untouchable. Not because I'm hard, but because I know my worth. And nobody can take that from me again. The room erupted in applause. Standing ovation. These people who'd watched me fall were celebrating my rise. It should have felt like victory. And it did. But it also felt like release. Like closure. Like the final page of chapter 1 was ready to close. After the speeches and the dinner and the donations, I walked to the window. The same window I'd stood at after the slap. The same view of the city spreading out like possibility. Daniel found me there, ready to go home, more than ready. As we walked out, I saw my reflection in the glass doors. A woman in white. Calm, radiant, complete. Not because a man had validated her. Not because the world had finally recognized her worth. But because she'd recognized it herself. Because she learned that the best revenge is becoming so whole that your enemies become irrelevant. So powerful that their opinions become whispers lost in the noise of your success. They thought I was broken. I was becoming untouchable. And the distance between those two things is measured not in time, but in choice. The choice to rise. The choice to rebuild. The choice to become someone so extraordinary that your past becomes just a footnote in a story about triumph. He wasn't my ending. He was my awakening, and everything that came after, that was all mine. If this story reminded you that dignity is the loudest revenge, if it showed you that silence is power and patience is a weapon, I need you to do something for me. Comment, "I rise in silence" right now. Share this video with someone who forgot their worth. Subscribe and turn on notifications because we have more stories coming. Stories about people who rose from ashes, who rebuilt from ruins, who learned that the best revenge isn't about making them hurt. It's about becoming so powerful that their hurt can't touch you anymore. We rise together. We rebuild together. We become untouchable together. This is your reminder that you're not broken. You're becoming. And what you're becoming is extraordinary. See you in the next story. Don't miss it. Your transformation starts now.